welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. My name is Glenn Turansky, and I am a member of the advisory board of One Business World. Leading Entrepreneurs of the World features entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders presenting on cutting-edge topics and the latest in industry developments. Our goal is to provide the global business and entrepreneurial communities with a window into the minds of those who are shaping the future of the world. Today, we're very pleased and honored to welcome leading entrepreneur Katie Nielson. Katie is the founder and chief education officer of Voxy EnGen. Voxy EnGen is a skills-focused virtual English language learning platform for organizations and employers working with immigrants, refugees, and speakers of other languages. Through Voxy EnGen, Katie and her team provide a language upskilling environment for organizations, educational and governmental institutions who want to improve their talent pipeline while providing economic mobility, civic participation, and a better quality of life for workers, immigrants, and refugees. Katie earned her doctorate in SLA from the University of Maryland in 2013, and she's authored 10 patents on the technology EnGen uses to deliver personalized English instruction at scale. She's dedicated her career to making language more accessible and effective using innovative technology and research-based best practices. Katie, it's a pleasure to be with you today. It's an honor to have you here to present, and we look forward to hearing more on your topic, founding of a startup with a social mission. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Glenn. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the intro. So I'm Katie Nielson. I'm our founder and chief education officer of Voxy EnGen, which, as Glenn said, is a platform that we use to help remove English as a barrier for immigrants, refugees, speakers of other languages, for new Americans who want to be able to get a better quality of life for themselves and for their children. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this came to be. How did I end up being the founder of Voxy EnGen? And then I'd like to end, since the topic is really how to found a startup with a social mission, with some best practices for doing something like this. So it all started in 1997 when I was a volunteer English teacher on an apple orchard working with Mexican migrant workers. And I discovered that I had no idea what I was doing, and that the way we were teaching English to immigrants, refugees, to new Americans in general was completely outdated, ineffective, and unscalable. And so I then went and spent the next, 10, 15 years trying to figure out how to do it better. I taught English all over Latin America. I taught English at a community college outside of DC. I got a master's degree and a PhD in second language acquisition. And the entire time I was focused more or less on solving the same problem, which is how can we help people learn languages better? I found a massive disconnect between research and practice. So people working on all sorts of applied language research were discovering new things about how brains learn language, how to use technology for language teaching, how to help people get the language skills they needed to accomplish their real world goals. And at the same time, the way languages were taught was staying the same. As a country, we do a really bad job of helping people learn languages. And so I decided to try to figure out a way to fix it. So this mission of improving the way language is taught has been central to what I've been working on my entire career, starting in 1997 when I was 20 years old on that apple orchard, trying to help people learn English when I didn't know what I was doing. The truth is that advances in technology and recent research in cognitive science have shown us how we can rapidly unlock language skills for large numbers of learners. And so my goal was to demonstrate that we could do this. I built a research-based framework for language learning and built an application that let me do this with learners all over the world. We needed to give them examples of the language they were learning. They needed the ability to produce the language themselves, an opportunity to interact with other speakers, and they needed feedback on how they were using the new language. And we needed to do all of this using technology. This is because learning a language requires acquiring a skill, not studying a content area. I like to explain it this way. If I were teaching a group of 30 people how to ride a bike, and I did it in a classroom, and I had all of them label diagrams of bikes and understand the parts of the bike, and maybe some days I would let them pedal very fast on an exercise bike. And then we did that for 6 months. In 6 months, none of those people would be able to ride a bike. And that's how we have been teaching people languages in the United States, and it doesn't work. We need to give them practice using the language to do real things, which is why I built a platform that lets us teach using technology so that learners can get personalized, adaptive access to the English they need. So I spent all of this time figuring out how to do it. I worked at a company, I worked at Voxy Inc., where I built the platform, I designed the patents behind the platform. But there was still a really big problem to solve. And that's that in 2021, the way we teach English to new Americans remains outdated, ineffective, and completely unscalable. The same problem that I saw 25 years ago is still here today. And so the social mission of my company, of Voxy EnGen, which is a public benefit corporation, is to remove English as a barrier using everything we know about how to use technology for language learning. English is the enabling skill for integration and opportunity, but the US reaches only 4% of our adult learners. And this is the problem that I'm trying to solve. And this is why I founded my company. And this is it's part of everything that we do, is removing English as a barrier. So the way to do it is to not just enable current providers of English instruction with technology to make what they're doing better. We have to have new models. We need employers to think about how to upskill their workforce with English. We need workforce development organizations to think about English skills when they're creating pre-apprenticeship programs and workforce-based training programs. We need to incorporate English on-ramps into the work that we do as a country, because by 2030, every single baby boomer is going to be at retirement age. And 97% of net workforce growth is going to be immigrants and their children. And so the mission of my company is to help people see what these new models are. We already offer benefits in healthcare, benefits in technology, benefits for education, but English isn't included as an educational benefit. The reason that we have so many immigrants and refugees here who haven't learned English isn't because they don't want to. It's because we don't have a system that can help them. There is no way for them to reach this training. So I founded this company with this social mission, is to help make language learning available in a way that is technology first, mobile first, available anytime, doesn't require people go sit in classrooms to get training. So I would say, if I'm talking to you, which I am, about founding a company with a social mission, I would say that founding any kind of a company gives you you have a very long road that you're going to follow, and you don't always know the twists and turns you're going to see or the mountains that you'll climb, which is why I picked this particular image. But the mission is super critical, because the work that you're doing will all be centered around the mission of your organization. And it's critical that not only you understand what that mission is, that you can communicate it succinctly, and that you surround yourself with a team that can complement your strengths. So knowing yourself is the other piece of this. I'm the founder of our company and I'm our chief education officer. That means I make sure that the platform works. I make sure that employers and schools understand how it can help them. It means I help come up with these new models. And it means I built a framework that can demonstrate the success of my organization. When you have a social mission for your company, your impact is probably the most important thing that you need to report to your investors, to your board of directors, to your stakeholders, because they not only want a return on their investment in your company, they want to know that you're making the impact that you say you're going to make. And so you need to have a framework through which you collect data to show that what you're doing is working. So that's a big part of what I do. Now, I am sort of unique in that I actually spent 20 years going to school to learn how to do what it is my company does. That's not always going to be possible for a social entrepreneur, but getting as smart as possible on your mission and on the product the problem that you're solving and the product that you're selling is critically important, as is picking the right team. So you need to make sure that you surround yourself with people that will challenge you, that will ask you hard questions, that will help complement your areas of weakness, whereas you're bringing your strengths to the table. You need to focus on solving your problem. That's why actually I think having a social mission is so important, because it focuses all of the work that you do. Everything that we are doing is about removing English as a barrier, whether we're working with schools, with universities, with employers, with workforce boards. We are talking about the same thing. In order to truly have a diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, we need to be able to include everyone. And it's not just saying these resources are available to you, it's making sure they have the wraparound services, the English support they need to access them. And the last thing I'll say is, and this is important for any entrepreneur doing anything, perseverance. This is not easy to do. It is not for the faint of heart. You need to be ready and willing to hear no and get questioned and think you've made some progress to find yourself going 2 steps backwards. But knowing that that's what you're doing, and that at the end of the day, you've built a company around helping to solve a real problem, that really helps keep you going. So that's what I prepared as my little talk about how you found a company with a social mission.
Thank you, Katie. That was very, very interesting. You talk about outdated ways to teach English, and all right, the first thing that popped into my mind was Robin Williams teaching English during Good Morning Vietnam. Right, and he was doing it through like the 50s and 60s music and jokes, right? Trying to.
Yes, and that's actually not an outdated way. That's at least using real materials. Like, so much of what's wrong with language teaching is we teach people the words for apple and banana and book and airplane, but we don't teach them what they need to do something real, or teach them how to understand what their boss is saying, or how to understand the language in their kids' backpacks.
Well, when you get some of those travel books, right, Fodor's or Frommer's, and there's always language questions in there, and some of them are, and part of the reason behind it is that they're useful, right?
Yes.
How do I get to the metro? Which way to the airport?
Exactly. No, and
What,
that's what people need. They need to know the language skills to get through the day. Like, they're learning a language because they want to do something else with it. They're not learning it with the goal of learning the language. They're learning it because they want to get a job, help their kids with their homework, vote.
well, I know that, and you're right on point, because I think of myself and my brothers, right? We've all taken X amount of years of Spanish in high school and college, right? All I have to show for it is, I can say por favor, and that's about it. Whereas given they're in the shipping business, so they travel the whole world, so they've always had the ability to practice and use it
Exactly. It's a
in
skill.
in port, and some of it's basic blocking and tackling, which way to the restaurant, how do I get to the taxi stand, things like that. But it's all practical ways to use it. Whereas I'm basically, all I am is just a bunch of one-off words, right? Oh, I
Right.
know this or that, banana, like you said, right? They come back and
What's funny is that it's learning a skill. It's not learning a content area. So it's something that you actually have. You said the word practice, and that's what you need to do for any skill. You have to practice using it. It's also really hard for adults to learn new languages because you speak your first language so well. And the minute you try to go use a new language, you realize right away, like, nothing I'm saying makes sense. I'm not sure what words to use. And we get very uncomfortable being bad at things. It's like learning like, if you went out, I don't know, maybe you know how to surf, but if you went to go learn surfing right now, you'd be probably terrible at it. And it would take you some time before you got good. And we feel very foolish when we use languages and we don't sound good. And so it's really a hard thing for adults to do, which is why giving them chunks of language that they can use right away, helping them understand like what someone's saying to them when they are showing up for their first day of a new job, especially when you talk about refugees who often, as part of their resettlement programs, need to get employed right away and they get put into jobs. They need preparation for what their boss is going to say to them, for how to understand how to clock in, for how to understand the employee benefits manual. And that's not the stuff that gets taught in sort of generic ESL classes.
no, no, not at all. And when you think of a refugee or an immigrant, or anybody trying to get ahead economically, obviously employment is the way out, or is your ticket ahead, and anything that's going to help you be enabled to succeed in that obviously has to be very helpful and useful for that. In your work, you mentioned again mission critical. I do a lot of not-for-profit volunteer work, and people always ask me, "Oh, how come you're involved?" It's like, well, I believe in the mission. How about on your side? How much do you interact with social service agencies and things like that?
We do. And so we try to help everyone, whether it's helping community based organizations and social service agencies or employers. I try to have What's difficult is that because we're offering a service, someone has to pay for that service. So if we're working with a social organization, we try to help them figure out how to find grant funding,
I was going
how
to
to
say
find,
grants. Yeah.
grants or philanthropy. The problem with philanthropic funding is most philanthropic funding wants it to become self-sustaining at some point, whereas education is something that, yes, of course it becomes self-sustaining because you're helping people get the skills they need for their own economic mobility. But within a particular program of getting people the skills they need for further education, it's unlikely that that itself is, which is why I think really employers are the solution to this problem. Many employers have large numbers of workers who don't speak English at all or don't speak it very well. And by helping them get English skills, they'll be able to create talent pipelines they can promote from within,
Yeah. Yeah.
opening up new roles for new employees. And we see it happening. We see some employers already starting to do this. So I'm excited to be able to share more in the coming weeks and months about success stories with employer specific programs so that others see the value in investing in something like this.
You talked about in your presentation, you mentioned measurement and data. How do you go about gathering that? Is it more qualitative, quantitative surveys? How do you go about doing it?
All of it. So I actually have a quantitative research background. So when I built the platform and the program and started the company, it was really important to me that we designated our metrics for success out front and also set up the ways to collect them. So when I'm thinking about a program evaluation, I want to look at four things. I want to measure the time on task. So how much time did learners spend actually in the program and how often were they using it? And then I want to look at their mastery of language and their proficiency improvement. And I can collect that automatically in my platform. But then there's also qualitative data. I do stakeholder interviews and stakeholder surveys for the people sponsoring the program and also the learners themselves. And then the big one, and the one where sort of efficacy ties into impact, is evidence of real world success. So people are learning English to do something else. I want to know, can they do something else? So here's an example. I sent out my Q1 impact survey to about 7,000 learners in the US who'd used the platform. And I got an 8% response rate, which so several like 500, 650 learners, something like that responded. It's a pretty good number.
That's pretty good for a male, certainly, sure.
Exactly. 88.
Usually like 2 to 3% is so that you're probably well over double.
Exactly. And it was because it was overwhelmingly positive. 88% said the platform had helped them accomplish their workplace English goals. Almost 30% had gotten a pay raise or a promotion as a result of having improved their English. So they were eager to report this because it was positive, with lots and lots of learner testimonials about how they'd been promoted and how they'd gotten a pay raise. I had one employer partner who in the next couple of weeks has a couple of videos of learners talking about how their employer sponsored they're using the platform and they've been promoted from jobs in the back of the house to like a management job and a job working directly with customers. And that's exactly the type of work we're trying to do. So it's all, the answer is both. I want quantitative data to show that the platform works and the approach works. And then I need the qualitative data to sort of triangulate it and show what those real world outcomes are.
Now, how about you mentioned again workforce? Any particular industries you focus on? Where is it most helpful?
So it's really helpful everywhere. Right now, we are focused. We have a lot of allied healthcare clients because we're suffering from an allied healthcare worker shortage. And so helping to upskill incumbent workers with healthcare employers and also get people into healthcare training programs, but also retail. Retail's coming back. COVID-19 obviously sort of for a year got interrupted, but all of those jobs are coming back. Hospitality, manufacturing is another place where there's a huge need to help upskill workers. The manufacturing industry will often have large numbers of workers who have low levels of English proficiency, but lots of jobs if they can help them get promoted.
No, that's great. You think of healthcare again as well, and part of the issue sometimes with healthcare is even for the community is access, and part of it is they don't understand what I'm saying. You have healthcare literacy issues, and if you could
Yes.
get people on the same page from whether it's acronyms, procedures, names of diagnostic tests, things like that, I would think it'd be very, very helpful. And that's talk about learning words, right? You're learning, say, radiology as opposed to banana,
Exactly. No,
or
it's funny
something
what's
like that.
and you learn that, yes, exactly, things like heart rate. What's interesting about healthcare too is that our communities of care should reflect the people that live in them. And if
Yep.
we have more, and I think that's what you were getting at, and if we
Yep.
have more
100%.
bilingual healthcare workers, then we can do a better job of taking care of people. You also, one thing we haven't touched on are highly trained foreign professionals. We often see language learners who are here who have master's degrees, PhD degrees, who are doctors and engineers in their home countries. And here they're driving a taxi or they're working as a hospital cleaner. I have one hospital program where in the first pilot phase, they discovered they had multiple environmental service workers who actually had healthcare related careers in their home countries. And they just couldn't get the English to get something here. Like they might not get the exact same credential. You might not quickly go from being a physician in Mauritania to being a physician here, but you could definitely get a job that is better than being a hospital janitor.
Yeah, well, you always wind up hearing stories about, well, there's different credentialing and licensing, but certainly from a language as a barrier would certainly be part of that.
It
And
definitely
it's a way of kind of unearthing all of these hidden jewels in in a corporation or an entity, right?
Exactly. It shouldn't be. And I really think part of the problem is that, like you said, or I said, and then you repeated, we're so bad at languages here that we tend to think of English as this insurmountable barrier. So we look at non-native speakers and think, well, I took 5 years of Spanish and all I can say is por favor. Like, how are they ever going to get the English they need? And like, I have a solution based on decades of research that I know works. And I collect data all the time to show that it works. So I'm super excited about the opportunity to talk to you about it today, because I really do think some of it is just getting the word out. Like, everyone's talking about diversity and equity and inclusion, but if you're not offering the resources that you need for your underserved populations to be included, they'll never get included.
When you do any kind of reading or research on diversity and inclusion, sometimes the diversity part is easy. The hardest part is the inclusion
Exactly.
and getting people to feel welcomed and putting their hand up, not afraid to put their hand up for an extra project or potential advancement. So yeah, you may have a very diverse workforce, but they're all siloed then, and they're not feeling tremendously mobile or welcome at that point.
Exactly. And the secret to economic mobility is being able to get to be included. You're never going to put your hand up. You're never going to get another job if you can't understand what's being asked of you, or if you're at work and you're confused and you don't feel like the environment is inclusive. But knowing that your employer is offering English as a benefit goes a huge way towards making that workforce feel included.
Now you mentioned, and we don't often see a lot of these. So congratulations, a public benefit corporation.
Yes.
A lot of
It
people,
was
may not know what that is. Can you describe it a little bit?
Sure. So a public benefit corporation has, as part of its articles of incorporation, its social mission. And it was really important to me to establish Voxy EnGen as a PBC, because I wanted the investors, and I wanted our board, and I wanted the world to know that we're not just here to make a profit. We're here because we want to improve the way that immigrants, new Americans, refugees get access to English instruction. And so you're set up with slightly separate corporate structure, and your social mission is part of your overall governance. And you're right, you don't see lots of them. B Labs is actually an organization that will certify public benefit companies. You go through their entire certification process, which we're in the middle of going through. So hopefully we'll be a certified B Corp
Terrific. Yeah.
in a few months. But our from the very beginning, we were established this way as a PBC.
Thank you. Now you mentioned your platform curriculum is mobile friendly.
Well, first,
Mobile first. Can you describe it? So you have an app. How does it play out?
there's an app. There's native apps for iOS and Android. So learners will have an app on their phone and they can do everything on the app. And that's another thing that we found with upskilling the US workforce. Not everyone has a computer. And if they do have a computer, they might share it with other people in their family, or it's not with them all the time. But we can make English instruction available in their phones, which nearly everyone has a phone or access to a smartphone. And they can work on language skills anytime they have a 5-minute break, because you don't need to sit down for 2 hours to work on English. If you have 10 minutes and you can go through and do a quick vocabulary review lesson of the words you need to pass your CNA certification, it will help you. It's like exercise. Like, every little bit counts. If you can do a 30-minute workout, great. But if you can just do like 10 push-ups real quick before you leave, that's better than nothing.
Yeah, I'm an avid step counter, so I was a little short yesterday. So I was beating myself up, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm still it. All right, I didn't do as many as yesterday, but at least I'm out here. And,
Exactly. How many, what's your goal? What's your step goal?
well, it's interesting. Through probably like Thanksgiving, I was having a hard time getting to 10,000 a day, and since around call it mid December, I'm hitting that every day, and most days it's closer to 12.
That's great.
Or 13. Well, I live close to the village, and we mentioned in the warm up, I've got the dog, so she comes with me. So we're world famous here for our walking and trying to
Yeah.
get around. Everybody, oh, you're that guy with that little brown dog, right? Yeah, I said, yeah, that's us as we move through. Hey, another industry that comes to mind is how about tech, help
That's another
desks, things like that. Is that something that might be
Yes,
a
and
good
that I'm
match?
working on. Yeah, I'm working on actually a couple of grants right now to try to write pre-apprenticeship, an English, getting people ready for careers in technology. I already have pathway content for learners who want to get into careers in IT help desk support and software engineering, but I'd like to do like a really specific one for cybersecurity. And I want to try to get people into these high demand jobs. It's the same thing. We just need to get them the English skills they need to access these programs that already exist for upskilling learners with with the skills they need for like tech boot camp. So yeah, it's a great question.
And you mentioned it was on the healthcare side, but some of and again you talked more about again skill focused, not so much content focused. I mean, can it be targeted to an exam,
Oh
or
yeah, and
a
for
language
healthcare,
around an
yeah,
exam or a certification or a
yeah.
credential?
And we do like the whole approach is to give you the exact language you need for whatever it is you want to do. So we have a whole program around the certification exam you need to become a certified nursing assistant. And I'm working on one for the Google IT support credential that's available through Coursera. So we sort of we're brand new and we're getting started, but we're trying to find partners who have these pathway programs that exist so we can create on ramps for them.
Now you came out of the University of Maryland. I believe, are they one of your partners?
They are.
They are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about a couple other? Are you able to share a few of the other ones?
Sure. So I meant, did I mention Futuro Health to you? That's
No,
working.
I don't think so. Not yet.
So Futuro Health is a great organization. They're a joint partnership between Kaiser Permanente and United Healthcare Workers West in California. And their mission is to create, I think it's 50,000 new allied healthcare jobs by 2024, because California, like everywhere, is facing this allied healthcare worker crisis. So we work with them to create on-ramps for their careers in allied healthcare for language learners to get the language skills they need to then participate in their stackable credential programs. I mentioned the University of Maryland, where we are working not only with their graduate students and undergraduate students, but also with dining services and residential facility services, helping their workers get English skills so they can take advantage of like the tuition benefits that university already offers to employees. We work with Queens Public Library and New York Public Library. And then we also work with Guild Education, which is a big education as a benefit provider. So we can create English on ramps to the rest of Guild's catalog for their employer partners.
Oh, that's exciting. That's really exciting. I mean, you focus. You mentioned healthcare again, and you think of again employment as a way out. I mean, certainly um, it's being very culturally sensitive. When you think of the social determinants of health that often kind of surround, the providing of care, and how did you come to the emergency department today, and things like that. And being able to help people navigate that, I would think, be so important.
So important and will
So
really
important.
improve healthcare outcomes and the efficiency. I mean, when you talk to people who don't speak English and they tell you about their experiences with healthcare, they often will spend hours and hours and hours waiting for a translator or for somebody who can try to explain what's going on. The more bilingual healthcare workers we can create by giving people who speak other languages the English skills they need for those careers, the better job we're going to do with healthcare in general. And
Yeah,
that sort of comes up with another point that we talk about limited English proficiency, which is sort of a deficit perspective. But we're really trying to help people who already speak other languages that are being spoken all over our country get English skills so they can speak two languages. You know, when someone tells you, like you were talking about your brothers who speak Spanish from being in the shipping industry all over the world, like everyone would give them to be like, oh, they're bilingual, they speak English and Spanish. And so we need to start thinking about all of the immigrants and refugees and non-native speakers who are here as bringing something to our country. It's what we used to do. We used to be very proud to call ourselves a nation of immigrants, and I'm hopeful that we're getting back to that.
Now you in the introduction remarks, and I noticed on the website, you got a bunch of patents. How was that process for you? How cumbersome was that? Did you do it all on your own?
Very, very cumbersome. No, I didn't do it all on my own. I wrote the initial patents with a technical partner and with I was the lead author, but I worked with 3 other people to author the patents. And but it was important to the work that we're doing because we invented a new way of using technology for language learning. And so if you do invent something new, you should do the work to try to patent it because it gives you an edge in the market, and it also establishes the credibility of your approach because it's sort of an independent review goes through and decides whether or not what you've done is novel. And it was a big pain to do it, but in the end, it didn't take that long. You need to go through and explain what you've done, and you need to hire a patent attorney to help you put the patent together. But then once it's done, and you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Now, in your keys for the social entrepreneurship startup, you had mission critical. You also had picking your right team.
Yes.
How long has your team been together?
So my team has been together since November, and it's super important to pick people who care about the mission as much as you do, but also people who bring complementary strengths to the table. So I'm our founder and our chief education officer, but my business partner is our chief executive officer. Like I would be a terrible CEO. I also wouldn't have time to be the CEO because I have to do all the other things. So I needed to find somebody who knew how to run a business, and so we could work together on actually building this. Like if I had to explain a financial model by myself, I would quit. But I can write a patent and I can explain to you how the technology works. And then we have our third employee was a wonderful technical product person, which is what we also needed. And so our team now has about 12 people, and we're growing, but finding people whose strengths are complementary to yours, and also finding people who care about your vision and mission is incredibly important. You can't spend too much time making sure you find the right people because you need to work really, really hard with them.
No, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Now, I noticed, I think somewhere along the line, I saw a press release. Now, you've had a funding raise, right?
Yeah, we raised our Series A at the end of 2020, and we formally launched in January of this year.
How'd you like that process?
I mean, not only did I raise a Series A, I like on Zoom call from my bedroom, which might have made it more efficient because I wasn't, going to in-person meetings all over the place. I could meet with everybody in a very efficient way.
And not a lot of train rides up to Boston. Then you
No.
stayed off the cell. Well, congratulations on the raise. And again, it gives you some new partners, right?
Yes.
A number of 5 or 6 partners, people that obviously have test drive all your materials and have listened to your mission and your story, and obviously helped be successful.
Yes.
On the assessment side, you mentioned the assessment side from a qualitative. How often on the qualitative side do you get feedback from the people that are in the program?
Quarterly. We send feedback, we send surveys quarterly to learners, and then I try to do and as part of being a public benefit corporation, I have to have an annual impact report. So I collected data quarterly to provide an end of year impact report on how we're working with learners. But because this is so important to our customers, like whether it's New York Public Library or Futura Health or a community college in Texas, they want to know that this is working for their learners. So we collect data from the learners on a case-by-case basis as we go.
Now, again, I'm sure you get lots of quantitative points, but from a qualitative standpoint, how often do you see the people use the words or phrases, helped my self-esteem, gave me confidence?
A lot.
I'm no longer, I don't feel awkward around my colleagues.
A lot.
Things like that.
Yes. So I break my impact survey into two pieces, and one is sort of the social benefits of having learned English, and the other are the economic workforce benefits. And in the social piece, like 90% of our respondents said the platform helped them do those things. More comfortable talking to colleagues. I understand my boss now. I can help my kids with their homework. I understand my neighbor, and that's why we're doing this. Like this is the most motivated population of learners you will ever find. They are here, they hear English all over the place, they want to participate in society, and we just need to give them the tools to do it.
Yeah, because you think of multi-generational households sometimes, right? And so let's say you've got the grandma living with the family, and the grandma needs to go to the hospital or has an appointment. Often the person that goes with them might be the grandchild, because the grandchild has been in school and is more, more fluid on English.
Exactly. And we often put the burden on kids to translate for their parents in school settings. And that flips the power dynamic between children and adults. The kids don't like it, the adults don't like it. Like we helping helping our immigrants and refugees be able to conduct their own affairs and advocate for themselves is really important.
You think of, right, you try kind of changing the so the child is then telling the mother, oh, the teacher said I did fantastic. Meanwhile,
Exactly.
it's kind of like, it reminded me a couple of weeks ago, the president and the first lady were down, right, and they were talking to students about Zoom, and and some of the kids were brutally honest. Well, sometimes I fake like my mic's not working so I don't have to answer the question. Right? So you get some of that. This is terrific. What a from a social impact standpoint, what wonderful work you're doing, and congratulations on all your success here. It's
Thank
been
you.
it's been an interesting presentation. We wish you nothing but the best, kind of going forward. If people needed to get in contact with you, what's the best way, Katie, for them to reach out?
They can just reach out to me, Katie at voxyengen.com.
Okay, that's pretty easy, right? Katie at
Yeah.
voxyengine.com. All
Yeah.
right, terrific. Well, listen, very inspiring presentation. It was great to be with you today. Thank you for a wonderful overview. As a social entrepreneur here, you're hitting all the right buttons, and you're doing such impactful work.
Oh,
So
thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
now this has been fascinating, and again, you're living that entrepreneurial dream and spirit, and you're making such an impact on the community at large. And congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So we look forward to seeing you again in the future, and wish
Yeah,
you
me too.
continued success and best of luck. And have a good rest of the day. Okay.
Thanks, you too. Have a
All
good
right.
dog walk.
Thank you. You too. Take good care. Bye.